You've probably heard of the Mahabharata, right? It's one of the world's great epics, this massive, sprawling story filled with gods, heroes, intense family drama, and a truly catastrophic war that basically changes everything.
So, in this breakdown, we're going to look at how this ancient story is being completely reimagined. We'll kick things off with a problem in the original epic, look at a really cool literary tool that can fix it, and then see how two different authors use that tool to give a voice to the epic's most famous woman, Draupadi. You see, for all its epic scope, the traditional Mahabharata has, well, it's got a problem. For centuries, the story has pretty much been shaped and controlled by a male point of view. Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Who actually gets to speak in this story? And, maybe more importantly, who gets left out? You know the saying, the victors write history, but who gets to write the epics?
And that brings us right to Draupadi. In the traditional version, she's often just a catalyst, you know? Her public humiliation is the big trigger that sets off the whole war. But Draupadi herself? She often just fades into the background, her own thoughts and feelings left a complete mystery.
So, how do you solve that? How do you give a voice to a character who's been kept quiet for literally thousands of years? Well, this is where the incredible power of shifting perspective comes into play. Now, shifting perspective isn't just about switching narrators. It's much deeper. It's a choice to go looking for the gaps in a famous story, the silent moments, to uncover new meanings and finally give a voice to the people who were ignored the first time around.
This quote really nails it. Rewriting an old story isn't just a fun literary game, it's a genuine act of liberation. It's about taking back control of the story itself. Okay, enough theory. Let's see this in action. Our first example is Pratibha Ray's incredible novel, Yajna. This is what that act of liberation looks like on the page.
So get this, the entire novel is framed as one long final letter. As Draupadi is dying, she's writing to Krishna, the one person who she felt truly understood her. This simple choice immediately puts her voice, her experience, and her wisdom right at the very heart of the epic. And let me tell you, this is not the passive Draupadi from the old stories. Ray gives us a thinking woman. Her name, Yajna, means born from a sacrificial fire, and she has that fire inside her. She is constantly questioning the rules of dharma, of duty and righteousness that men try to force on her, and she calls out the deep injustice of it all.
This all leads to this amazing transformation. During that horrific scene in the Kuru court where she's being publicly shamed, she doesn't just cry, she rises. Her voice cuts through the room, and she's not begging for pity. She is demanding justice. It's this incredible moment where she totally reclaims her power. But that's just one way to tell her story. See, Yajna is all about the public world, a queen fighting for her rights and challenging the system. But another famous novel, The Palace of Illusions, goes in a completely different direction. It turns inward, exploring her private thoughts and feelings. And this brings us to Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni's novel. Here, the drama isn't about the politics of a kingdom, but the politics of the human heart.
Divakaruni said she wanted to find the story that was invisible between the lines of all the men's battles and adventures. What she gives us is a Draupadi who is so relatable, so complex, and just deeply human. She's full of flaws, secret heartbreaks, and passions she could never, ever admit to.
This novel really fleshes her out. We see her as a lonely, rebellious kid, and most powerfully, it dives into her secret, unspoken love for Karna, who, remember, is the sworn enemy of her husband's. It's this impossible love that's framed as her great, tragic flaw, adding this whole other layer of personal tragedy to the epic. And wow, this book does not pull any punches when it comes to the brutal reality of her world. Through her eyes, we feel the sharp, painful sting of patriarchy. This line is just so raw. It shows a woman who is painfully aware that in the eyes of her world, she's no different than property. So, okay, we've got two powerful but very different retellings that give Draupadi her voice back. But that makes you step back and ask a bigger question, right? Why are we doing this now? Why do we feel this need to revisit these ancient myths and reshape them? Why does it matter so much today? When you boil it all down, these retellings are doing three really important things. First, they give a voice to those who were silenced. Second, they force us to question the old established norms that are baked into these stories. And maybe the most important thing is that they build a bridge from the past to right now. They show us that these ancient fights over power, justice, and identity, well, they're not history. They're conversations we're still having today. And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. Draupadi's story is finally being told in her own words. But this act of liberation doesn't have to stop with her. It really makes you wonder, whose voices are still missing from the great stories we tell ourselves? Whose turn is it to finally speak?